And we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Marco. I'm one of the code mentors here at the FirehoseProject, and I run you guys through our info session today. So let's see, what do we have in store? So first of all, I want to talk to you guys about our core curriculum and talk about how do we customize that for entrepreneurs, job seekers alike. And then we talk a little bit about what's so important about the group project, how people launch their own application before they graduate the program. And then also want to talk a little bit about the support system, right? How do one-on-one mentorship sessions work and why they're so important? What our forum does, what our weekly office hours, and talk about how do we support you to get from where you currently are in your coding career to the end point, where you can either launch your own application or join a team as a junior web developer. Now, and then also I want to answer a question that I usually get a lot, which is like, besides like reaching your goals, what else, what's the real, like the core that you get out of participating in the Firehose project? So those are the three big themes that I'm going to be covering and going through. And then obviously, if you guys have any questions, feel free to either use my email. You guys should all have my email and send me that way. I already have a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to be answering at the end. Or just go to the Google Plus page and use the little box for comments and put your questions in there. I'm happy to pick up the questions from there as well. Okay, let's jump in. Core curriculum, right? What are we going to do? 15-week-long program. First 2 weeks is PreWork, the Firehose intro. That's where we work with you on your coding fundamentals. You can get that for free. A lot of you guys who are watching this right now already on there and submitting your code challenge solutions. It's awesome. For everyone who's not on that, I suggest go to theFirehoseProject.com, look in the top nav. There's a Get Started link. Fill out the application. Take a little bit of time to fill out the application because yes, we do look through all of these applications and actually pick the ones out that we think would have the biggest impact going through the program. So fill out the application and then you can start on the pre-work. 2 weeks pre-work is going to help you with your HTML and CSS skills and starting to write the first Ruby scripts and actually solving programming challenges that usually screen out a lot of programmers before they even get to a technical interview. So that's really good fundamental stuff that will help you then be accepted into the full program. So once you complete all your coding challenges, we accept you in the full program. Here's where we start. That's about 13 weeks long. So first week, first actually 10 hours, what I want you to do is build a web application and put it live on the internet. What we're building is something pretty simple, right? It's a user can put a sentence into a database, and then we randomly pull that database, that sentence out of the database and display it on the page, right? Form and input database displayed on the page. It's not that challenging. We pack it into a mobile-first design, so it looks good on your desktop, tablet, as well as mobile phone. So we're always shooting for, if you're at a party and you pull out your phone, you say like, hey, this is what I coded last night. The response that we want to hear back is like, oh, wow, you did this? This looks awesome, right? That's the baseline we're always going for. So that first 10 hours building and launching your first web application is kind of giving you a 360-degree over all the technologies that you'll be using, right? Because you need to write more Ruby code, you need to use the Rails app, you need to use your Postgres database, use Git for version control, GitHub to share your code, and then Heroku to push your application live, right? So we're doing all that in the first 10 hours. Now, we want to keep the learning curve steep. That's why we have you start on the next application, which is a Yelp clone. And I think the most important or most interesting feature that we're taking out of the Yelp clone is the integration with the Google Map API. So that means if a user comes and creates, let's say I'm creating a place that sells awesome surfboards because I love surfing, right? If I'm creating a place with awesome surfboards on our Yelp clone, then obviously I need to enter my address so people can find my location of my store. So we need to write the Ruby code as web developers to grab that address off of a form, save it in the database, transform that address into longitude and latitude coordinates, and pass those coordinates back to the Google Map API so we get a little pin on the map. But obviously, this wouldn't be a fully functional web application if this is all it did. So we obviously need to have star ratings. We need to build a feature for that. And then user comments, right? There needs to be some interaction on the platform. So we're building that as well. So obviously, if I have my surfboard store on our Yelp clone and somebody leaves a comment, I'd like to get an automated email notification right when that happens. So we need to integrate with a SendGrid API so we can send those automated emails, they're called transactional emails, straight out of the platform when some action happens to pull users back into the platform. And obviously we build user login, logout, user registration as well. Students usually take about 3 weeks to finish that. So now about in the first month is about over when we build that Yelp club. Next up, we're going into test-driven development, right? That is something that's really important. So if you don't know what test-driven development is, think about rewriting automated software tests to make sure that all of our features of our application are still working and not broken. That's software testing. Test-driven development flips it on its head. And we're first building software tests and then building the features to make sure that our test coverage is accurate and everything is working properly. That's the industry standard. That's how startups, that's how tech companies build products. They build tests first, then the features, and then they ship it live. So they always ensure that everything's working properly. It's the industry standard, and you guys need to know that, especially if you want to launch, if you want to land a job as a developer. It's kind of your bread and butter. And if you're an entrepreneur and you want to build your own applications, well, you better make sure that it's running and working properly the whole time, so you don't have to deal with users going, well, nothing is working here, I'm out of here, right? Cost you money, cost you revenue if your site is not working properly. So test-driven development, really important. So that's what we do right after you finish the Yelp club. Next up, we build a two-sided marketplace, an online learning education platform. With that, what we go and really deep into is like multiple user roles, right? All of a sudden you have, let's say, instructors on one side and students on the other side. Now, students can purchase courses from the instructors. And that's where it gets really interesting on a database relationship level. And this is one of the key skills you're taking out of this. Like, how do we keep track which student bought which course from which instructor? Doing that through database relationships is really challenging, but it's something that you learn here, and it powers a lot of web applications out there, right? Just think about Facebook. If I put an image up there and share with my friends, a few of them like him, a few of them give me comments. So now, how does the notification system even work, right? Who gets what? I get, hey, somebody commented, but then somebody who likes it as well. We need to keep track of that on a database level, and then give that person notification as well. And those database relationships are really what drive all modern web applications out there. So learning that, building that two-sided marketplace is key. And obviously, I mentioned people can buy and purchase. So that means we need to be able to accept credit card payments on our two-sided marketplace. So we're integrating with the Stripe API so people can actually move money through our application. Now, the other thing that we're doing in that is we introduce JavaScript at the moment when you need it. And that is, we have our instructors, they build their individual lessons and their sections. And one thing that would be really nice is they could just drag and drop and reorganize the individual lesson blocks without having to reload and refresh the screen, right? They can just drag and drop. And you've seen drag and drop interfaces before. We're building one from scratch using JavaScript, jQuery, and Ajax calls to improve the user interface on our application so the experience for our instructors is a lot smoother. So that's what we're introducing there. That usually takes about, the two-sided marketplace takes about, I'd say, 4 weeks to do. That's the first 8 weeks of our curriculum. Throughout those first 8 weeks, what we also do is we're running you guys through several real-world coding challenges that teach you how to write algorithms, tackle really complex problems with a computer science kind of mind, and then also write really good Ruby code to solve those. Now, you do that in parallel. And then after the 8-week mark is over, we split our curriculum into 2 paths. We have entrepreneurs on one side, and we have career seekers, job switchers on the other side. Let's talk about the job switchers, the people who want a junior web developer job after the end of the program. Let's talk about them first. So what are we going to do? We put you on a group project to build an advanced web application. Now, why are we doing this? We're doing this because in the real world, the best applications are built by amazing teams. And knowing how to do this is what you need to have to be a high impact employee from day one. How do you collaborate on code with another web development team? How do you do that? Are you that employee that actually can do something on day one? And that's what employers want to see. And that's what impresses senior developers and technical hiring managers. And that's the person you're going to encounter in your technical interview. So if you can already work together with a team, you have a huge leg up. Now, the next thing we're doing is we're building an advanced web application. And what we're building is a chess game. Now, a lot of people might be like, oh, come on, a chess game. That's not exciting. But it excites senior web developers and technical hiring managers because that is what they think is challenging. And if you're thinking about it, just how would you write the code to consistently test for checkmate, right? Or the castling move in a chess game? That's complicated algorithms that we need there. And that's exactly why we taught you algorithms before. So now you can combine your web application skills with your algorithm skills on a group project, which is as real world as it gets. Combine those two and build an advanced application that actually impresses hiring managers and senior web developers. That's what we're doing with everyone who looks to land a job as a junior web developer and get in that real world situation. Now, for all the entrepreneurs on the other side, right? If you come to us and your goal is to build and launch your own web application, then we take the last 4 weeks and we put you on your capstone project. We take your idea, we wireframe it out, means we draw out every single screen of your application, and we break it down into individual coding steps. And together with your mentor, we make sure you launch that application in the last 4 weeks of the program, so you have something live that users can actually use, and you can start using that user feedback to make it better. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the support system, right? So we have one-on-one mentorship sessions, we have video office hours weekly, we also have the Q&A forum, and we have Agile team meetings for our group project. I usually like to start talking about the forum. And people usually come on, it's just a forum. I have a question, I take a screenshot of my error message, post it in there, get some help. It's not what the forum does, right? It's what it enables you to do. It enables you to, when you code on Thursday night and you have a problem, an error message, you can put it in a forum and you get help within an hour or two. That enables you, when you come to the mentorship sessions, to be error-free. That means that with your mentor, you can work on what matters most, right? So for example, if you have a hard time with your algorithms, we can go in there and pair program and work through the algorithms with you. Or if you need additional tests for your test coverage in the test-driven development section, we can do that together with your mentor. But we're not wasting time helping you solve, hey, you have a missing comma there, there's a semicolon missing. We can do that right when you need it. Don't have to wait for your mentor on that. That's a big difference of why we can do so much in the mentorship sessions. Then we obviously have the weekly office hours, and I love them because that's when all of our students come together and they, we do live troubleshooting. We explain the moving pieces of a web application. We're actually helping you through thinking through the career moves that you need to do. And what's really interesting is, you get to see and meet your fellow students. And then what happens is, like, if you're just starting out, right, you see people who are in week 11, 12, and you see the questions that they're asking, and you quite don't understand all their code, but you're just like, okay, wow, this is the path that I'm going to. Same way, if you're like further along and somebody week 2 or 3 asks a question, oftentimes you're like, oh wow, I know the answer to this because I've just been there. And you can answer the question and solidify your learning in a different way. So that's why I love the office hours so much, because it like brings everyone together in the community. Now, we also have the weekly Agile team meetings. Once you're on a group project, we meet with a mentor once a week to make sure we have everything going and we're consistently working on getting each new feature launched. Now, I said in the beginning, I want to answer that one question. It's like, what can I really do when I graduate the FireHose project? And besides launching your own application as an entrepreneur, or finding a job as a junior web developer, as a career seeker, right? You have the power now to create. You can go, and if you have an idea, you can sit down for a weekend or a week, and you can code the web application and ship it out live and have people use it and give you user feedback and improve upon that. And that power of creation is something that's really, really important. So having those skills is key. And it's besides realizing and getting to your goal of landing a job or launching your own application. Now, guys, if you have any questions, shoot them my way. I already seen a few coming through. So I'm going to go through them right now and answer you guys' questions, and we see what we can do there. All right, so get the question. What's the application process? Great question. I mentioned that before, right? I said, hey, you guys, apply for the FireHose intro, apply for our PreWork, go through, solve the coding challenges. So definitely go to theFirehoseProject.com, look in the top navigation bar, get started, click on that. Take a moment to fill out the application and then actually start coding and submit your coding challenges. And we review all your code and give you the thumbs up, or we ask for refactor, just like in the real world. So definitely do that and work on your coding fundamentals there. What else do we have? What's the weekly time commitment? That's a good question. So weekly time commitment is, we say a minimum of 20 hours. If you have more, perfect, put in more. We have plenty of people who go through the program full-time. We're not holding them back. You're getting challenged even more, but the minimum is 20 hours that you dedicate to coding. So if you have that, it's perfect. You can do that part-time. We have plenty of students who hold full-time jobs and go through the program part-time. We also have students who, held their job for the first month, then quit and spent the last 2 months coding full-time and going through the program. So awesome question. Let's see what else we have. Looking over here, how the materials are presented. That's a good question. Materials are presented 3 different ways, right? We have written instructions, we have video instructions, we have live instructions. Let's talk about the written instructions first. So these are detailed guides that give you step-by-step instructions on how to build a web application. So they're written for several reasons, and I think there's 2 key benefits. In the real world, if you're coding, you're always going to come across written documentation, either for the Rails framework, for an API, for open source code. Going through our detailed written instructions will basically teach you how to use open source Ruby on Rails guides, integrating with APIs. It'll teach you how to use those resources that real developers use every single day. That's great. The other thing is it becomes its own resource. And we see that multiple times, that students come back and actually go into our guides, look up something, and then go back and code at their job, right? So looking something else, like how do I build the automated email notification? How do I integrate with Google Map API again? Come back, quickly check on 1 or 2 lines of code that they need, and they go back and integrate something. So that's the written instructions. Then we have videos, right? They teach you object-oriented programming, inheritance. They teach you model view controller architecture. They teach you test-driven development. The pieces that we think are most geared towards teaching you via videos, we have in video format, and we give them to you at the moment when you need them. So when you come across the point where like, okay, now it's important for you to understand HTTP requests, model view controllers, or object-oriented programming, then we give you those sections. And always they have live interaction, right? You have your mentorship sessions that are weekly. You have your office hours, video chat office hours, and you also have your group Agile team meetings every week in the last 4 weeks. Great question. So let's see what else we got. Why is the group project so important, and can I do both? That's a good question. So group project, right? For everyone who wants a job as a web developer, that's what you need to do. You need to know how to build something together as a team, a web application, ideally something advanced. We're building a chess game. And it's because that's how things work in the real world. You really need to know test-driven development, because without writing your tests properly, you will never get your code accepted. You will never get the thumbs up, so something gets pushed out live so customers can use it, or clients can use it. And if you don't know how to work together with a team, you're basically missing like the basic tools that people are using, like GitHub on advanced mode, like how do you do branching, like how do you interact with other people, how do you review somebody's code, how do you get critique, how do you refactor your code. Knowing that is critical to work on a team. So that's why that's so important. So what else do we have? The difference between us and some of the other coding boot camps. Oh, that's a good question too. So I say there's several differences. I think the most important one is actually like the depth of the curriculum, right? We're teaching you algorithms, we're teaching you test-driven development, we're teaching you object-oriented programming. Those are things that I don't see in other curriculums, and they're not going as deep, but these are key skills that you need to look for when you want a job, especially when you want a job, right? And on top of that, we teach you the whole Rails framework and JavaScript and the front end to make it a full stack web development package. So getting the depth of the curriculum is really important in knowing how to do algorithms. One of our students just wrote a blog post. He landed a job a week after graduating, and he said, I got that job at a really great web development consultancy because I knew how to write really good algorithms. And he wrote a blog post how algorithms helped me land my first job as a web developer. It's key. Knowing those skills is important. A lot of other programs just gloss over it because they don't know what's important. We do, and that's why we teach that. The other thing is our group project, right? Learning how things work in the real world and doing that, having that experience, that really sets you apart, especially if you're a job seeker. So doing that is key, having a group project. And by a group project, I mean something where you get together with 4 people, they do nothing else but work on their group project. This isn't the side thing. This is Agile team meetings and consistently pair programming with each other to push features live of something that is advanced. I'm not talking about a Yelp clone or a Udemy clone or a Reddit clone. These are easy things to build. That's not impressive for senior web developers. It's impressive, a chess game, a blackjack game. There's a lot of logic and algorithms behind to power that application. That's what we're doing in a group project, and that's why this is so important. Great question. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, and the other thing is our world-class mentors, right? We have mentors that have their own tech crunch articles written about them. They worked at Flickr, they were head of product at Bitly. They work for Product Hunt, some of the best startups in San Francisco. They work for Y Combinator companies. They have their own companies in Y Combinator. They're VP of engineering at Techstars companies. They're assistant professors at really great universities in the US. These are our mentors. You would not get them and have access to them at any other place. So our mentors are really world-class. And I say that with confidence because a lot of mentors come from other coding bootcamps. They want to work for us as well. And when we give them a coding challenge that our students solving in week 12, we usually never hear again from them. And they're actively mentoring somebody else because the coding challenge is too challenging for them. And we're like, something is off here, guys. You should crank up your mentor skills. So that's really like the difference. Our mentors know their stuff, and they're senior web developers. So the quality of the mentors is the third thing. So again, you have the depth of the curriculum, you have the awesome quality of the mentors, and then you have the group project, which is where the real world coding comes in. Great questions. Okay, let's see what else we have. I think that's pretty much it. Didn't get any more questions, so I think we can wrap that up right now if I didn't get anything. But yeah, guys, this was pretty awesome. If you can think of any other questions, just let me know. Send me an email, right? Happy to answer them. If not, start applying for the pre-work. If you're already on the pre-work, keep coding on the pre-work, and we're happy to review your code. Hopefully we can accept you in a full program. Until then, thanks so much for coming. Thumbs up, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.